Hello, beautiful people. How's everybody doing out there today? My name is Nathan Bush, and I'm somebody that discovered narcissistic personality disorder here in February. Now, that was a very welcome term because I had woken up to the reality that I did not know the people in my life. It was a very scary experience to wake up recognizing that everything that I thought I understood and the way in which I see people in my own life had perpetually led me to disasters, failures, discards. And, when I made my first video on TikTok, it was really days after discovering the term. I was not even fully aware of where this would take me, not even close, but still not even aware of what exactly had shifted it within my own mind to make these people now appear obvious. Some of the things that I wanted to share with people was just how much power we have over narcissists, that narcissists are given this mythological power because everyday people lack the discernment. We live within these paradigms susceptible to gaslighting, being triggered because the vast majority of our emotional experiences are involuntary reactions to things that are ultimately pattern recognition. The personality of human beings is actually this dissociative disconnection that causes individual experiences of reality, where rather than having some common objective view of reality that we share, we have 7 billion different realities. And we live our lives almost in defiant defense of our unique perspective, entitled to our opinions, our thoughts, our view of life. And we protect that view as if it's ourself, primarily because of all the attachments to what this reality tells us we need to do in order to survive it, or in order to overcome a lot of these emotional experiences that drive us in life, that our lives are being driven in avoidance of failure, and avoidance of disappointing ourselves, disappointing others. And we formed attachments to all the things in our lives that give us identity, good and bad. That all the things you're trying to do is really perpetually overcoming these experiences, trying to rearrange the furniture of your life to get everything perfect so you could be immune from disappointing other people, trying to make other people happy, trying to solve their problems for them. In fact, even part of the codependent attachment is because many people pleasers find it easier to see the potential in others than themselves. I know that for myself, that was the case when I did mortgages, that I could actually mastermind all the transactions to make somebody a millionaire. And I did. And the funny part about it was that all they really were was a name, an address, a social security number, and some info. And I could do all the rest of the work myself. And it was just signing papers. The only distinction between me and that person is, well, I did the work and it was their name on the documents. But if somebody asks me, why don't you do that yourself? Well, for me, I would get triggered. Like, I would have all the issues that I'd have to work out. I could literally fix someone else's credit. When it came to my own, it just seemed unsurmountable. I'd get triggered, this thought of I can't. And I actually was avoidant of my own life and own challenges. And so what there is to see is that, much of what we experience, in relationships with narcissists isn't real at all. That the so-called trauma bond doesn't actually exist. It's just an attachment towards survival, because what you're surviving is you're surviving the experience of being not good enough. You're surviving this experience by trying to transform not good enough into good enough. And so when a narcissist devalues you, it's a manipulation tactic. It keeps you engaged in the relationship. It keeps you off of their trail. It keeps you from holding them accountable. But it also attaches you to them, where your experience of yourself as not good enough now has something to do with them, making you dependent on their affection, love, attention, breadcrumbing, acknowledgement. And this is a disaster. And you can spend a lot of time stuck in a relationship that's emotionally abusive, and people won't understand. You'll end up confused. You'll end up knowing that something's wrong, thinking that you can do something to fix it. That would keep me engaged in unworkable relationships with work, where I would be doing everything I could to cause a business to be successful, while at the same time dealing with having to argue, convince, praise, like everything required to get the compliance of the people I was working with. And so they were always sabotaging. Even when there was a lot of success, they required so much extra effort. And with that exception, I was always getting unceremoniously discarded, and it was never made sense. It was like, we were succeeding, why would you fire me? And it was just this perpetuation of the same problem. See, for me, the issue was my understanding. I'm, somebody that, became deeply analytical. What I realized was that in my childhood, there was a lot of violence, between two narcissistic parents and a dad that had a real temper, and same with my mom. There was a period of time where there was a lot of physical violence, fist fighting even, punching each other. My mother became really dissociated and alcoholic, and she would sit in the kitchen and drink, and my father would come home, and, it would always be fireworks. And I remember the calmness that took me over when we were in the kitchen and I saw my little brothers crying hysterically. And in this moment, I became very calm because I felt like I had an understanding. My understanding was it wasn't our fault, that we would be okay. And I tried to calm my brothers down. I wanted to protect them. And it required me to be calm. And this calmness even included, severe things that, might be traumatic to other people. After my parents' divorce, my dad became very, very, very distraught, very angry, full of rage. I remember the first time visiting my father in his new apartment. He picked me up. He had this black Camaro. I used to love his Camaro. He had a 1990 Camaro, and I was 11 years old. It was black. It was a 5-speed at a 305 V8. Well, I was at his apartment. His apartment is really, he did a really good job decorating it, like he had an interior designer or something. But he took me in his bedroom and he pulled out these boxes and he opened them, and there were guns. I'd never seen a gun before, and he showed it to me, handed me one. He explained it was a 357 Magnum, and he showed me hollow point bullets and taught me about how they worked. And when they hit the body, the hole in it would cause the bullet to fragment and cause maximum damage. And then he pulled out a little .22, a pistol, nickel-plated, wood grain. The 357 had a short barrel. It was blue. They were clean and new. And he had like a lubrication there, and he was teaching me how to load the gun. But then he started explaining to me that he was going to fix our family, that he had a plan. And there were these men that my mother worked with, and they were the ones that ruined our family. And so he needed to do something about it. And I remember talking to him, understanding his pain, understanding that he was hurting, and trying to talk him out of it. And always felt like I could. I wasn't afraid. I just was in acknowledgement of the gravity of it. But I felt that, I knew my father. I knew how to tiptoe. I knew how to talk to him without necessarily invalidating or causing him to get angry. But, trying to be reasonable. And, I remember that my dad used to take us shooting with him. He would take us to some place in the mountains that was like where people would fire illegally, that it's like you could see graffiti on rocks. So I'm not really sure exactly where it was. Maybe up in the hills of San Bernardino somewhere. And I could hear bullets whizzing overhead, that there were like gangsters firing automatic guns and different things, and just people out there that were, firing guns in the mountains. And he used to have us practicing, so we would practice, but it was a very sick thing. He would have us practicing, firing on the men. Like he would have us practicing that, and teaching us how to do it. I remember him on his knee, giving a gun to, I don't know how old my brother was. He might have been 3 years old, something really young, and teaching him how to shoot an adult. And like, not just that, but like, it was very specific, like shooting their genitals off first and then killing them. And he would ask questions like, what are you going to do when you see so-and-so, son? And then he'd have us rehearsing. And so we would be going and doing these rehearsed attacks against grown-ups. And it was for me, I was understanding of what was going on. It was very disturbing, and it made me very uncomfortable. But we didn't have a lot of choice, because, our father was, very reactive, very angry. And so, he did this like it was normal. We never told our mother about it. She later told me that he came by the house, that he brandished the firearm, the Magnum, and he told her that he was going to, unalive her. You know what she said she told him? It's the same thing she told him when he came to the house saying that he was going to take the kids away. She told him, go ahead. I don't care. You've already ruined my life. If this is what you need to do, I don't care. Do me a favor. And he looked at her, and then he left. And that was it. And there was a time when he came to the house, and he was really angry. And I remember one time he threw the child support money at her. It was very weird watching my parents fight after the divorce. My dad was so angry. He threw money at her, and I think he blamed her for the loss of his job because she had to force child support. And then I think for her, you see, when I went to see my parents at work, they were very different people, that they were happy and nice. My dad, I used to love to see them at work because that was a different person, even in college, visiting my mom at work was something of a treat because the person she was there was powerful. The person she was there was intelligent, clear, absolutely high energy, effective. She was a boss. She was a supervisor, and she did really good work. She protected children. She had a hatred towards child predators and abusers. Well, that was where I got being analytical. And that was something that was so destructive in my life because my confidence in my ability to understand and mitigate any kind of disaster enabled me to coexist in profoundly unworkable situations where I would be calm when people were failing. I would never be the squeaky wheel that got the grease because I was so understanding. And I thought that me understanding that it's like these people were friends to me. And so if I showed up and I had somebody doing some job that was related to my business, there was no accountability because they would be delaying and delaying. I would pay people up front. And I couldn't understand why they would always fail, why they would blame me, why they never took responsibility. It's literally like I went through 4 or 5 fabricators trying to produce my own twin turbo kit where I designed it, I did all the metal work to make the first kit. I just wasn't a developed welder. I didn't have the welding equipment, but I could take and build the manifolds and take it somewhere, have it tacked together inside this perfect kit. And I kept turning it over to professionals, paying them. And I realize now I would talk to them probably the way a woman might talk to the next boyfriend about her history of cheating men or something. Like almost sad that, I keep paying people and then they fail or they just quit. And that experience was horrific because these things meant so much to me, and I would always understand that I'm giving people work, that I had the customers, I had the market, I had the ability to sell. But this understanding that came from making myself numb, it came from, using my mind like a computer. And I mean, this obscured very obvious betrayals. There's an example, right? And I mean, my idealization could have been at the level of borderline personality disorder. I didn't have splitting, but I did have profound emotional triggers, but the idealization was pretty substantial, where, I loved my dad, I understood my father. I remember living in Virginia, and I knew everything about his past. I knew the way it was for him as a child. Over the years, listening to him talk, listening to my mother talk about the way that my dad's father was a monster. She met my dad's father, and she said he was the most vile and evil man she ever met. That he had a way of talking that was so negating, so taunting, so falsely nice in a wicked, dehumanizing way. Oh, look at you. So Lou done got himself a white woman, huh? Feeling high and mighty, I bet now, with you in his life. You probably got one of them fancy college degrees, don't you? Living out there in California, thinking that you're special, And so he would talk to her that way, and she thought that he was a monster, and he was, because he used to, beat the children. He used to beat them badly, and there was nothing anybody could do. They were black in rural Virginia, and the mother, I think, was driven totally insane, schizophrenia. And so for me, I lived for over a year of my life in Virginia. My mom, she sent me there when I was 12 to live with my dad. She got really triggered by something that happened. I don't remember what it was, but she got so mad. She was like, oh yeah, well, you're gonna go live with your dad. And it was just like, bought me a ticket, dropped me off at the airport. And that was horrible because, when I was a young guy, I used to have glasses, and my mom talked about how contact lenses kind of changed her life in a way, because she used to get teased like I did. Very thick glasses. I really felt like an ugly person, that I had deep-seated sense of not belonging and being ugly. One of the issues was that I was biracial, and I didn't know that, but there was kids in my neighborhood. I remember going to visit a friend named Michael. He's older, and I knocked on his door to see if he could hang out, and he came out and told me he couldn't hang out with me because his parents said that my dad was an N-word. And then he closed the door, and I didn't know why I couldn't see my friend. And when I went home and I asked my mom, well, what's an N-word? She's like, oh, that there might be racist, And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know that I was black. I had black brother and sister, and then my younger brothers were white like me. I never thought about that. I had Korean friends. We didn't really think about those words. But But the thing that I used to do was I would wear hats all the time because my hair got very curly and I didn't know how to brush my hair. I remember in 6th grade, Miss Simons forced me to take my hat off in front of the class. She said that I was unkempt and she wouldn't let me wear the hat anymore. You know, and I had the big, thick glasses that people used to make fun of me. But the lack of belonging came from 3rd grade, where in 3rd grade, you know, I got pulled out of class, and it was Miss Nichols' class, and I was sitting in class, and I used to daydream. I used to love looking at books that had animals. I was obsessed with whales and engines, and in 3rd grade, I built my own remote control car, you know, and I used to love things like that, and I would obsess over engines on motorcycles, and I knew a little bit about engines. But I believe by that time I understood how they worked because my father had told me how engines worked. You know, he taught me how to drive at 10 years old. You know, stick shift even. You know, but what happened in 3rd grade was I'm sitting in class, and you know when your class gets interrupted, you get nervous, like someone's in trouble, right? And there's a tall lady that came in the classroom, and she had very sunken features, but she seemed really nice. And I remember when she called my name, you know, I'm looking for Nathan Bush. Well, that made me very nervous. I thought I was in trouble. And I remember walking down the hallway, and instead of going to the principal's office, she took me to the library, and there was a room in the library, and we walked through these big bookcases, and then there was a door on the wall that I never noticed, and when she opened it, there was a little classroom, and there was a big round table and bookshelves, and in the center of the class there was the brown table, and then there was another desk that might have been hers, and she introduced herself as Dr. Ajamian, and she told me, you know, well, sit down, Nathan. And she explained that, you know, Nathan, you're going to be coming here and spending time with us. And there's 2 other children there, and they were just a little unusual, you know. One of them was really happy and smiling, and he seemed to have a kind of an enlarged head, and the other kid just seemed like, you know, chewing on pencils or something. And she made a note to tell me something that really had an impact on me, but she wanted me to know and understand that, you know, you're going to be coming and learning here for half of your day with us and half of your day with the other children. But I want you to know something, that there's nothing wrong with you. Well, the moment she said that there was nothing wrong with me, I knew there must be something wrong with me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And so this created, in my mind, a separation between me and other people. An understanding that there was something wrong with my brain, something wrong with my mind, that I must be stupid. And so this sense of brokenness and deficiency ended up being something that made me want to belong and be like other people. And without really fully articulating that, the impact of that on my life was being someone that was unable to acknowledge myself or what skills I had, and all the skills that I learned would be like a revelation. Like even when it came to working on cars, you know, I could be really good at it, but I thought I was an amateur. You know, I'd always imagined that people that did things professionally were always naturally gifted or better. You know, I remember watching inventor infomercials like 1-800-INVENT-HELP. Like, do you have an invention idea that you need to help get off the ground? Well, submit your invention. And so I would see inventions and things, and it made me think, wow, you know, why couldn't I be like that? What is it about them that makes creative people different? And so I never really thought that I was creative. You know, never. And the truth of the matter is that I had no awareness of my abilities with cars, that was normal, that even having rebuilt an engine in high school and building a Mustang and working on my own car. I just thought that was normal. I just thought that that's what guys do. And, you know, when I grew up, I'd built a Mustang, and I never once considered working on cars for a living. You know, it just never occurred. It wasn't until I was over 30 years old that I got back into working on cars, and it ended up leading to, you know, a business. I mean, me falling into working on cars was something I felt like I fell back on, because everything else would blow up in my face. You know, there's always this overarching experience of fear, of failure, and that there was always these sabotages and things that would affect me profoundly. There was also all these fears, you know, that I was consumed by profound fear and inhibition towards certain types of tasks. That my fear of failing and the fear of discovering myself as broken was something that would cause an inhibition towards things like meeting with guidance counselors. And, you know, it was profound, all pervasive, that I went to college and I did not meet with guidance counselors out of fear, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I couldn't visualize myself doing anything. That even though I was a wizard in human physiology, anatomy, and certain sciences, my relationship to myself was that I was broken, that there was something wrong with me. I felt like I was hiding in plain sight, that I had an imposter syndrome, an air of confidence or arrogance about my intelligence. When people would validate it, it felt good, but it didn't feel real. When a real person would acknowledge it, so like I could get validation from a narcissistic study partner that would end up sucking me into a relationship only to destroy me. Well, you know, that was one of my girlfriends for 3 months. You know, literally tortured me. But the reality was, if I got acknowledged by a professor, that would create fear. So real acknowledgement created fear. Validation created comfort. I noticed that now. That realization drove me to go back to school, actually. That after doing all the landmark training, after working in the mortgage industry, I was able to let go of the failure of school, having dropped out as a fifth-year senior after a double discard by my girlfriend, my best friend, and then, you know, a car accident. I couldn't handle remaining in school. I was forced to drive my mother to work every day, and, you know, she wasn't getting out of bed. You know, it was a nightmare because it was causing me to miss school. It was causing me to be late for physics class, and I was taking so many hard sciences, and the emotional strain of, you know, the discarded relationships, the pressure of what I was going to do after graduation, or if I was going to graduate, the being stuck in 21 units of very hard classes, from winging my schedule myself and kind of doing things out of order, not taking prerequisites, and, you know, challenging myself with very hard classes and doing well as the underdog, and now leaving behind all the other classes, you know, and, you know, trying to force myself to graduate. Ended up failing out miserably. I could not hold it together. You know, I couldn't catch up once behind. And the shame and the embarrassment and the pain of it, the fear and having no one to talk to, you know, that it turned into just shame. It turned into, you know, my mother, you know, just shaming me because of everything she sacrificed so I could go to college, kind of thing. And it was a nightmare. You know, like I literally felt like a completely broken person. And, you know, these types of just catastrophic experiences of just myself were what I was able to overcome with the ontological processes in taking these seminars, landmark education, like literally overnight results, like letting go of so much stuff. And as much as I got out of the initial classes, I still had a lifetime of self-discovery that I never recognized the nature of people in my life. That a lot of the relationships improved because I became more and more stable, more and more confident. You know, suddenly I could talk to women, suddenly I could sell, suddenly I could make money. But I didn't account for the sabotage, the betrayals. I didn't account for, you know, the nature of people in my life, that I was still mirroring them. And well after, you know, not taking those programs, you know, where my last participation was a year of coaching within one of the leadership courses that was just life-changing, 6 months of intensive, you know, coaching, and just a profound period of development that I got so much out of it. And I ended up wanting to coach the program, wanting to be one of the coaches that, you know, you get assigned 3 people and become responsible for them and their growth and development. And, you know, I wanted to learn how to do that. I wanted to be somebody that could make that kind of a difference for people, that having witnessed the power of the Landmark Forum leaders, these people were the most gifted people I've ever experienced. That, you know, they look like everyday people when you first see them. But man, when you're done with that 3-day class, they become almost, you know, godlike to you, because you watched them for 12 hours a day just cause these profound breakthroughs for 150 people all at the same time in front of just, you know, one person that can lead an entire course like that. It didn't matter what people had going on at the microphone. It didn't matter who heckled them. It didn't matter who got triggered. The heckling would happen at the very beginning of the course because of things they would say, you know, somebody, well, I don't agree with this and that, and get up and try challenging them, you know, and that was so amazing to watch, because without exception, they would dismantle whatever the person was doing in a way that was so articulate, didn't even require devaluing or invalidating them. It was like watching Jedi masters work. Like, as you would be so unpredictable, like you would be nervous, like, oh my God, like here's somebody like yelling and getting angry. And then after it, that person would actually have had epiphanies, or like would be like, oh my God, I do this in life, you know, and it was like holy moly. And so having witnessed something that was way outside of the boundaries of psychology, way outside of anything you'd ever experience. You know, it was actually a class, you know, the Landmark Forum, that I had a sociology professor, Dr. Bernard McGrain, who would talk about this class. And I didn't connect the dots until I took it, and I went back to visit him. I did. When I started taking more of the classes, I actually went to Chapman to talk to him, like, hey, this is what you were telling us about. Man, I wish I would have known. I wish I would have done it in college. Holy shit. Holy shit. Like, the Landmark Forum made such a profound difference for me that if I had done this as a teenager, it would have changed my life entirely. If I had done this before I went to college, I'd probably have gone and become a doctor or something, or who knows what I would have done. But the things that I've done since then, despite numerous failures, you know, were things that I never would have imagined. You know, working on television, you know, even coaching people. You know, I was somebody that was so, you know, in some regards introverted, even though in some ways I was extroverted. But when it came to work for me was very much like school, where there was these profound fear barriers that I worked as a personal trainer and somebody that had advanced physiology knowledge. I was the worst personal trainer from a sales standpoint in a 24-hour fitness. And that was such a crazy experience of this fear of sales, almost like the failure of college and all these things, and the sense of brokenness and not belonging and unwantedness was something. These things haunted my mind, and they became the way I experienced others. And so I used to have anxiety about going to work. Why? Because I would have these shifts. And so when you're working as a personal trainer, you get paid like minimum wage to just go through the gym, to just do things and talk to people to try to sell training. And that was so hard for me because I would have to approach people, and it would bring up everything, like this fear of failing, this fear of being unwanted, things that I didn't know. See, I didn't know what was causing it. It was real for me. And so these experiences of rejection, these experiences of being not enough, it defined my life. And so I had no self-expression. I had no confidence. I, up till the age of 24, only had 2 girlfriends my whole life. I had no girlfriends in high school. None. And maybe less than a year of total experience in relationships with women until I was, talking with my coach, Mike. So my coach, the head coach of the program, when I first started coaching, we had a coaches meeting, and I had a lot of breakthroughs. So this time I had a career. It wasn't like I was just down and out and broken, but what it was that I was out and about with him. And this is how the coaching works, by the way. This is how instantaneous it changes your life. It changed my life. One talk. Now, I had already had my life changed by other conversations, but this particular conversation impacted a very particular area of my life. What it was this, I was hanging out with Mike. He's the head coach of the program. I'm a newly starting coach. I started coaching the program after finishing it myself, and that made such a difference for me, that particular program. But that gave me the ability to public speak. That gave me the ability to just be in front of any number of people, right? But when I was out and about with him after dinner, there's like a dance floor, and we're like elbows on the railing, and we're looking at people dancing, and there's single women everywhere. And he asked me, he's like, well, you're single. Why is it that you're not out there dancing or meeting girls? I was like, that's just not my environment. That's what I told him. It's just not my environment. He's like, say more about that. Say more about that is like, we're going to tease something out of you. So I was like, okay. So I started explaining to him. It was like, well, for me, I'm analytical. The way I talk, this isn't the type of environment for that, right? Like, it's not conducive with the way that I think, and so it's almost like I'm like this social scientist, So I was trying to explain to him why this wasn't my environment. He said something to me that was funny. It's like, just sounds like you experience being unwanted. I was like, oh. Whenever you say being, you hit the nail on the head. Like, he noticed the way of being I'd never seen before. Never thought that. Never even noticed it. It was so hidden from view that it just was part of reality. It was part of the way women were. It was part of the way I am. It defined my relationship to women in a way that was invisible. You see, we live in an is reality. We live with very fixed views of others and ourselves that are already defined, and we operate within the boundaries of that experience. And so, unbeknownst to me, I'm trying to mitigate the experience of being unwanted by analyzing, by trying to be funny, by being talkative, by trying to demonstrate intelligence or distinguish myself. And after experiencing rejections and things, I became somebody that, created this understanding of myself that protected me in these environments by causing me to be indifferent. That it really didn't matter. I didn't feel bad. I wasn't missing out on anything. So I can go out, and it wasn't like, oh, I wish I can go talk to girls. No, because I had already made up my mind that I was just a different person. Yeah, it's just not me. This isn't who I am. So I didn't need to worry about that. Well, that thought, he challenged it. And I did not recognize that paradigm ever before in my life. Even after coaching, even after taking these programs, because I never even thought to even consider it. Because I had been, in a sense, using my mind to understand myself, not really present to how that impacted me, how, I was, thinking that is something that prevented me from having relationships. So without being present to the impact of that, there was never a perceived need. That I wasn't desperate for girls. I knew that, someday, I'll be in the right situation and I'll meet someone, and I just never really thought about it, but what happened now was him asking me about, well, where does that experience of being unwanted come from? He asked me that. And what that did is cause me to look. It was an amazing thing that right there in the moment, my mind going through memories saw it everywhere. Like I saw it in college, I saw it when I go out with friends. It became something now I'm present to. I didn't see it that way. See, I didn't think unwanted. I experienced unwanted. It was real. See, when we talk about thinking you're good enough or not, most of the time, it's not that you think these, it's that you know them. It's that you feel it, that you experience it. And so this unwanted wasn't something that I thought, it was something that was real. I experienced it. It happened. Plenty of evidence. Every time I talked to girls, I could see it right there. See, doesn't want me. See what I told you? See, she doesn't want me. So my memories were just full of that. I didn't take it offensively. It wasn't a thing. I just wasn't attractive to women. And so that was just the reality of it. But was it? No. I remember now this memory where, see, I had all female clients when I was personal training in college. I remember my little brother visiting me, and I had a client. And see, I didn't pick up on anything. This lady would always invite me to have her come and do laundry. She wanted to come and help me around the house or stuff like that. And I would just think analytical. Oh, it's okay. I've got a laundry thing right there. It's not a big deal. We actually have, in our apartment, we've got a washer dryer combo. So I can do the laundry. It's okay. But thank you. That's really thoughtful. And I did not know it. When I look back, all of my female clients were always hitting on me. And I was always gracious and nice, but I was oblivious. I didn't feel I didn't even notice that they were attracted. Never noticed it. Didn't notice it. It didn't even occur. Because they weren't, you'd have to hit me. You'd literally have to go topless or something. Because that actually happened to me before. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't get the clue. Well, so when he asked me where did it come from, after my mind reversed my whole life, it popped up. A memory that I never thought of before. It wasn't traumatic. It was just a memory. And the question is always, what happened? Well, what happened is always distinct from what we made it mean about ourselves. See, when I do exercises with clients, the coaching is about what happened versus what did you make it mean. We find the origins of all your suffering, all your triggers, as this distinction between what happened and what you thought it meant about you as a child. And when you separate these two, those triggers disappear in your life. We reproduce the experience of literal enlightenment, literally, causing people to be laser present in the moment for the first time ever in their existence. Now, I was already present in life. And so Mike asked me what happened. And it was funny. You see, we could laugh about this because this was not some devastating thing. I was free already. But it was still hidden from view that even as somebody with such a high level of self awareness, the nature of reality is one where you do not see these things. None of you can see what I'm saying until you see it for yourself. If you are not free of the experience of being not good enough, if you still experience any measure of brokenness, if you still experience anything along the lines there being something wrong with you, if you think that you have trauma that you can't get over, if you think there's anything in your past that has any impact on you right now, that can be handled in one phone call. Guarantee it. I've developed a methodology that will take every trigger that you have and disappear them like abracadabra. You will think you've been in a Zen Buddhist temple for 30 years of your life because we have mastered ontology to a science with precision. Literally, the genesis of the whole continuum of the human experience has been fully articulated in language. Like, I know exactly where to look. It's not even a challenge for me. I can do this with any human being, including a narcissist. I've done it. They're just different because of the nature of their triggers is not pattern recognition. They don't get that far. They don't develop those normal structures because their experience of their first trigger is like 2 years old. They don't have the cognitive capacity to do pattern recognition. So their pattern is just an overarching fear of others as well as emotional states of others triggers them. So they have triggers, but they have to be manipulative early on because they live affected by the emotions of others involuntarily. And so they get stuck in permanent rumination, permanently calculating how they have to be to try to cause others to like them because they live completely at the effect of the emotions of others because of the emotional impermanence that constitutes the mind of infants and babies. That they never leave an emotional state of dependency. They operate like children because they're needy, because their own experience themselves is literally reflected from the feelings of other people involuntarily. And that's the only difference. And the only ones I've been able to help already knew that. They had enough self-awareness to know that their emotions don't match reality. The rest of them, if they don't see that, they're lost forever. They do not have access to their subconscious. They don't have access to transformational learning. They could only exist within the boundaries of a world that they understand through the same mechanism that you understand, which is a vast limitation. That's why in the Bible they're considered demonic, because they can't access the higher self. And the higher self is really just you. That what I've discovered is the subconscious mind is fully conscious. It's just that living within the paradigms of triggers concentrates your field of focus on being good enough. Only what's relevant to that. You'll ignore everything else. Even though your subconscious creates the emotions of it that you don't see, hidden under your triggers, it creates your subconscious mind knows when someone's lying to you. They know. It knows. You will just have a sense because it's being blocked by the trigger. That your brain is processing it all. Your eyes see it, you hear it, you feel it, but you don't become aware of those feelings and they get trapped within you underneath all the triggers. You'll be feeling the feelings associated with being devalued, the triggered emotions, but not the sadness or the betrayals. You may have a sense of that, but it's nothing compared to actually seeing it and being aware. But back to the what happened. So my what happened to create the overarching, all-encompassing, all-pervasive, inescapable thought, not even a thought. It was a thought, but it was only in the experience of the moment that I was unwanted. He's like, what happened? I was like, well, shit, because I could see it now. I'm like, gosh, I never thought of this moment. It wasn't something I wish didn't happen. You won't even know the moments until we do the coaching. Because you've been conditioned to think it's trauma. You're looking for damage. You're looking for traumatic experiences because you're looking for visual similarities. Like if it's a woman with a man, you're going to think it's daddy issues because everyone says that. So you're going to look at your relationship with your dad and make a connection. But you could keep making connections. You'll be at school thinking, oh, it has to do with that school. Oh, you'll be at work. You think it has to do with college. And you just play connect the dots in therapy for 30 years and you never get to the actual genesis of what caused all of it. See, in ontology, you slay Dracula and it takes out everything. That it's one moment that caused all of them. That's what I discovered, even distinct from Landmark. That they have many different distinctions, but I found a master distinction that encases all triggers in one. And it's just, couldn't believe I discovered this, but I use it in coaching, and it's profound. It's at a level of breakthrough that I don't think exists anywhere other than what I'm doing. I know that you can produce the same outcome in any ontological practice, but they have so many different little distinctions. I take care of every trigger in one conversation. However, let's go back. So my what happened here was daycare. I was like 4 or 5, and I was the last little boy, you see, and so it was getting dark, and I was with the last lady, like a teenager, and this woman, and I remember her locking the big gate behind us. It was the Assistance League of Santa Ana, this giant daycare center, and you were sitting on the fire lane, in the parking lot. It's like empty. And I'm just sitting there happy, and then suddenly I had this thought. I was like, where's my mom? And I felt this sinking feeling, this fear, this abandonment. Just horrible. And I knew that I was unwanted. All the other kids' moms came, mine didn't. So I felt unwanted. I was crushed. I was so alone. I felt abandoned and sad. And so I was there, it wasn't there very long. And then suddenly I heard a sound of the tires and I looked up and it was my mom. I was like, oh my God, she wants me. I felt so happy. That created a paradigm called unwanted, wanted. You see, you have not good enough, good enough. It becomes an overarching contextual phenomenon that when I'm talking to a girl, I am trying to avoid being unwanted. I'm feeling fear. The outcome of this interaction means I'm unwanted or wanted. I'm either going to feel rejection, abandonment, worthlessness, being not enough, or I'm going to be elated, excited, but nervous. So like if I was talking to a girl, I'd be trying to be funny. I'd be looking at everything. Like it would be like if I'm in high school, here's a girl I have a crush on, but I'm always looking and analyzing. I was scared to approach her because if she rejected me, it'd create this trigger that I'd have fear of talking to her. And so I'd looking for the circumstance, the right moment. I'd be wanting to ask this girl to a dance. I could just be looking at lunch and like not trying to get caught and thinking, wow, if that one goes over there, oh no, someone's talking to her. Okay, not now. And so it's like everything had to be right. And then, okay, go. And I'd be nervous and then I wouldn't do it. So I didn't have a girlfriend in high school. And that's the way I always was. And I tried to understand and analyze and figure out. And so if I went out with my buddies, I'd watch how easy it was for them. And I wasn't like them. And so it just was not my environment. Now, what Mike asked me is he's like, well, what's the impact or what's that cost you? Just like, raw. I was a team captain, football player. I was a stud athlete. I'm a good looking dude, like literally trained to have like a perfect physique. Like I blew it. Like I went through old college, like just a nerd. Couldn't talk to girls. I'd be having women hitting on me and I didn't even know. Had no idea. I'd be studying with girls and like, they would literally have to like force me like to, because I would be like, I had a study partner, this woman, and she was studying with me and I didn't detect her flirting until she literally told me, look, I need you to know, I broke up with my boyfriend so we could date. And I was like, date? Whoa, what? Well, so what he did is he gave me something to say. All he said to me, and this was something I've incorporated into my training, he said, say this: I give up the right to have the complaint that I'm unwanted in my life forever. It's like, oh, okay. I give up the right to have the complaint that I'm unwanted in my life forever. That was it. I just said it. Oh, I was like, oh, okay. And I forgot about it. I didn't dwell on it. The very next time I went out was Thursday the next week. I literally went home after that. I didn't really, stay or hang out. Well, I went out on Thursday to Newport and went to this place, Sharky's, where I would go with my buddies, my roommate. And I was walking in the door and I just caught the glimmer of something. It was blonde hair. And I looked, and right at the front of the line was a very pretty woman. And without thinking, I was literally in this surreal moment because I just started walking towards her. And I walked right up to her. And I just looked at her and I was like, hello, my name's Nate. And she looked back and she's like, yeah, so what? And I was like, right then and there, I laughed. Because I was like, oh my gosh. There's nothing there. Like, it was literally like, had no impact. Like, I realized that would have just cut my legs off. That would have been rejection, emergency, bailout, say you're sorry, almost apologize for existing, And now it was funny. And without thinking, it was just like, hey, nobody has time for this. I was like, you can come with me right now. We'll go in, we'll get a drink, we'll talk. Or you can just wait in line with everyone else. It's your choice, but I'm going in right now. She's like, oh, okay, let's go. And that was it. And I was also marveling at how insignificant it was, meaning it was just two people talking. Wanted did not matter, unwanted, rejection, there's no such thing anymore. If she said no, it wouldn't mean I'm rejected. It would just mean she said no. Who knows why she would say that or whatever. It's none of my business. It was just an invitation. So it totally depersonalized. It didn't mean I didn't care. Didn't, because you see, you would think that me feeling rejected meant I cared about her. No, it's got nothing to do with her. You see all these reactions you have, you think it has something to do with you caring about. No, it's not that you care about them. You don't get rejected and heartbroken because you care about someone. That's got nothing to do with love. All that has to do with is you feel broken, you feel not good enough, you feel like there's something wrong. And even your attachment to a narcissist has nothing to do with love because you don't even know the person and their character is unlovable, that you can't love that human being because there is nothing to love. And you think that your attachments are love. No. All your attachment is you feel like not good enough and you need to fix it because you're attached to them because they devalue you. And then you get the high of feeling validated and breadcrumbed. And you think that's love. That's got nothing to do with love because you don't even have the capacity to observe the person. No, you don't even know what love is. You've never had it because you don't have it within you. You cannot have love when you are living like you're not enough. You cannot have love when you're broken. Those thoughts and feelings, like you can say you love yourself, you can say you love someone else, but your love is just codependency. Your love is an attachment to how you feel. You're so backwards with love that you don't even know what it is, to the point where you'll destroy your entire life thinking that you're in love with someone. And all the in love that you think you have is an illusion. It's literally just turning off vicious circles. It's literally just being validated to where the not good enough dies down. You feel safe and feel connected and accepted. It's not even got anything to do with love. And the funny thing is when you disappear these underlying thoughts of self, all your attachments disappear. Your trauma bond's gone. Your whole life forgiven. Every moment of your life that you think is wrong, you think is failure, you think means something, will disappear in your mind for good. And you could do that in one talk. One. Because we're talking about something that is underneath psychology. We're talking about something so profound that psychologists would never know it exists. You can't get this from psychology or therapy because they are just addressing the aftermath of being. They're only literally being like athletic trainers that merely try to pacify feelings and have conversation, like literally much of what they do is just listening. Like if you listen to someone talk about their feelings and just let them dump on you, they'll get emotions communicated that disappear triggers of something's wrong with me just by talking once a week. We learn that like in our courses where that's like nothing. Like that's not even therapeutic. It's only therapeutic in a world where people don't listen to each other. And so much of what psychology is doing is stigmatizing people because they don't understand the origins of all the suffering and thoughts that people have. Because ontology will disappear all of it. Then there's always more of it you can look at. That you learn that anytime you think that there's something wrong, in life, like something wrong here, something wrong there, you're triggered. That's it. There's never anything wrong. There's just life. And then there's the meaning you added. And so the not good enoughs, the for me, the unwanted, all of that, it's not real. There is no broken people. There is no people that have something wrong. Like if you look at animals, this doesn't exist. But there's no chimpanzee with something wrong or broken or traumatized or any of that. Like it just doesn't happen. That there's no mental illness in nature because they don't have the ability to create words to describe and objectify themselves within the boundaries of a fight or flight reaction. That what happens that causes human beings to suffer is that they get their first fight or flight reaction, which causes pattern recognition to develop. The child tries to figure out what went wrong, why the mom's upset, whatever the situation, doesn't matter. Doesn't even matter. It's always inevitable that there is no way to avoid a child thinking that there's something wrong with them. You can't, because they have language, and all that's going to happen is going to be a trigger. You see, this thought that everyone's traumatized is wrong. It's the only way we can view it, through the lens of our own brokenness. And so you can get a PhD in psychology and you become an expert people pleaser trying to master the art of fixing other people's emotions by fixating on the aftermath of feelings. Oh, that's why it requires compassion and delicacy. You need to be trauma informed because you might trigger someone. It's like, no. We're imbuing such permanence around suffering to the point of full stigmatization, where you need a book this thick and just research and look at the level. Human beings with all this intelligence require drugs, therapy, and all this crap, all this worldly shit. You need success and money and cars and houses and to get these relationships to work, and you got to get your triggers and your this and needs met, needs. And you can't even have a relationship. You can't even have basic conversations. That birds can talk to each other. Penguins can pair bond for life. Dolphins don't do this. Killer whales don't do this. Lions, bears, tigers, like, the suffering of human beings is completely abnormal. We'll destroy our whole planet in pursuit of fixing our own self. We could never get enough. Never enough money, never enough success, never enough sex. You got to drink, you got to take drugs. It's endless. There's nothing you can do to fix it. Nothing you can do outside of yourself that will ever make you happy. You can become happy. Doesn't mean you won't get happiness from achieving a goal. But how does that compare to somebody that's already happy? You can do the same thing and more. Because you think that your driven state to try to get there, no, it literally destroys your potential. Like, you literally don't even have access to your imagination. That your self-expression level is so small compared to what's possible that you're a fraction of what you could be. Not even close. Can't even compare it. You will always fall short of the glory of God. That's what they meant. You can never be what you could be if you were present. If you didn't have fear of failure, if you didn't have fear of rejection, if you didn't have fear of not mattering, if you didn't have fear that you might not be good enough, if you didn't have any of those inhibitions literally clogging your mind and preventing access to your imagination, not even allowing yourself, like, you are scared to even think of tomorrow. You are scared to visualize goals because it'll trigger you. You're afraid to confront your potential for failure. And you need your past to tell you if you could be confident in something. And you don't even know how to think, because you don't think, you parrot. You've been indoctrinated to learn in reverse order, using the mind of rumination. Like, you'll keep going back to try to fix yourself, fix life, learn, grow. And you look at somebody studying psychology. Oh, great. A certification in someone else's ideas. Well, where did they come up with that? Where did Freud get all that information? Oh, he made it up. Yeah, because he can use his mind. And we can think that's a genius. And it's like, it's a genius relative to ordinary people who have no access to their own imagination, that think creativity is a gift, think that there's creative people and not creative people. Well, there's people that are able to be creative, and there's people that will not allow themselves because they catastrophize themselves by thinking that they're broken, by thinking that they're not good enough. And so your not good enough thought prevents you from even daring. You don't want the responsibility of generating your own ideas. You don't want to contest what you think you know. Your certainty around everything around you is just satiating the thirst and lust to control. Like, you just want to understand, because that gives you the false footing that you're going to use to move into the future. Why do you think you keep having screwed up relationships with narcissists? Well, because you keep trying to figure it out, and then you get future faked, and then you feel good, and then you keep going. You think you need to understand, why did you do this? Why would you do this to me? And then you get some bullshit, and then you're like, okay, I'm glad I understand. Now we can move forward. Understanding, move forward. Understanding, move forward. And then there you are, discarded. Oh, that's nice. What happened? I did everything. Well, it's because you don't have any concept of what's taking place. Because you can't even use your mind. You're not present. You're living in your head. And everything in your head is just in servitude of trying to become good enough. And the not good enough comes from an artificial version of reality anyway. And so you're literally reacting to things that you think mean that you're good enough or not good enough. And that's not real. And your fixations on becoming good enough are why you never feel like you are. Because when you're trying to become good enough, you're honoring that you aren't. When you're trying to fix what's broken, you're honoring that you're broken. When you're trying to figure out what's wrong with you, you're honoring that there is something wrong with you and you're keeping it permanent. And you're having memories resultant from these patterns that are consistent with the patterns. And so when you fail and screw something up or get discarded, you look back and like another narc relationship. That means I'm broken and not good enough. Only a not good enough person would have 3 narcs in a row. And it's because my dad traumatized me and I got the daddy issues and I wasn't good enough for my daddy and I wasn't good enough for my mommy and then school and then work. And I gotta be perfect. I'm gonna figure it out. I gotta heal. I'm on the healing journey. I'm gonna do a tarot card reading, call my psychic, pray to Jesus, go to church, and then I'm gonna go do some ayahuasca, and I'm gonna take the drugs that the pharmacist gave me. And if I do that, and I meditate every day, and I drink my coffee, say my prayers, take my vitamins, and my psychic medium tells me that my soulmate is coming within 3 days, I will finally be good enough, but I might need boobs, and I might need to start squatting and get my revenge body back. And then, only then, I'll be good enough and deserve love. And the love that you're looking for is the love that you displaced when you thought you're not good enough, because not good enough doesn't feel good. So, let's review. You get triggered, you feel like you're not good enough. Not good enough displaces happiness, keeps you from being present, patternizes your behavior, attaches you to something that you think makes you not good enough, so you can try to fix it by either impressing someone or making them happy or getting a good grade or fixing this issue or paying that bill or all the multitude of things that you gotta do because you're triggered all the time, every day, and everything in your life triggers you somehow, some way. And you can't get rid of it. You're literally like a robot, stimulus response, good enough, not good enough, good enough, not good enough. Living in an overarching experience of the external world that is just patternized because you're triggered. And you think that this triggered you, that you call up yourself with all its automatic behavior responses, like being funny, being analytical, being strong, being perfect, is who you are. Because you can't escape it. You think that you have a choice. No, you have decisions. But your decisions are within the world that you see. So you don't have a choice of the world. See, transformation transforms the world you live in. See, in the Landmark Forum, they'll have a board up that says Transformation, the genesis of a new realm of possibility. Inside this new realm of possibility, the constraints the past imposes on your view of life disappear. A new view of life emerges. Within this new realm of possibility, you will see that new possibilities for being call you powerfully into being. New openings for action call you powerfully into action. The experience of being alive transforms. New possibilities for being call you powerfully into being. I want you to hear that. See, when I do this coaching stuff, I ask people, what do you see as possible now? They will say everything, like everything, like, yeah, I can just see everything. I can see. Like they'll be looking around their environment. They'll be sitting there and the voice in their head's gone. And so they're totally in the moment, feeling connected like they've never been. And they'll see new possible ways to be in their life. See, they've been living life trying to survive. They've been living life trying to overcome and fix and change themselves, like some contingency, that their happiness depended upon their performance. And now, you see, the irony of it is that your attachment to fixing, changing yourself, you actually believe makes you successful. No, it kills your success. Because you're more inhibited than you are empowered. That you're literally just cattle prodded by fear and by the discomfort of failing and by the discomfort of being not good enough and alone and disconnected and unlovable and broken. And so you're just chasing the happiness displaced by these ways of being. That if you feel like you're not enough, well, not enough isn't lovable, it's not happy, it's not present, because now you're stuck trying to figure it out. Now you're stuck trying to strategize your way through your life. But the life that you think you're strategizing yourself through is just a gauntlet of things that are triggering you all the time. And you live your life in perpetual avoidance. And now you don't want men. Now you don't want women. Now you don't want to try this. Now you don't want to try that. You've systematically eroded what's possible for you through the, triggering of all these things in your life. And that's it. And that's just what it is to be a person. And you'll get the life you get. Sure. Can you have success? Yeah. We're not talking about success. We're not talking about whether you'll get married. We're not talking about did you get a house or a promotion or is your life good or not good? No. Oh, there's plenty of rich people. Yeah, there's plenty of success stories out here. But you see, their happiness is dependent upon the things. And if you took all that from them, most people, well, they would be upset. Of course, right? Wouldn't we all? But that's why rich people reaching heaven is the camel through the eye of a needle. Why? Because they're attached, thinking that they're good enough. But they don't need anything. They don't need Jesus. They don't need enlightenment. They don't need it. Because their life is making them good enough. And see, you, even right now listening to me, would only be listening for what's relevant in your own journey, your own quest of becoming enough, your own quest of fixing yourself, your own goals, like what you think you need to do on Monday. You want the insight. You want something to stop something's wrong, get you out of your head, give you something to stand on, give you a platform to move forward. And I don't have any of that. I don't have any advice for you. I don't have any insight that you can use. There's nothing actionable that I'll ever tell you that will be useful because you will continue to live in the same world. It'll never make a difference. Advice is useless. What? What is the advice going to do? It'll help you get the meaningless promotion to turn off not good enough next week. And then you need more advice for the next week and then how to handle this next week. And it's just endless because you'll just keep reoccurring the same thing, thinking that it's because of the things around you or because of the people around you. And it's not. This is teaching people how to fish versus giving them the fish. Well, I'm not here to fix your relationship. I'm not here to fix anybody. That's a different coach, right? I'm here to help reveal people to themselves. I'm here to just have you be present. That you don't need a boyfriend to feel good enough. So you're going to try to overcome your feelings of being worthless by putting yourself in a situation to prove yourself to a narcissist. That's the best you got, right? So you keep doing that because you feel worthless. And you think you feel worthless because they're treating you that way. And then because you allow them to treat you that way, you confirm your worthlessness. And so you feel like you deserve it. So you agree with the narcissist. See, the voice in your mind is why you're with the narcissist to begin with, because you would disqualify yourself from a healthy relationship. But the question is that people with profound victimhood often themselves are narcissists. So if you're just an all-pervasive, perpetual victim, then maybe my coaching wouldn't be worthwhile, because I'm not interested in people convincing me of their brokenness. I don't need that, right? So this may or may not be for you. Like, I've coached narcissists before, and I'm not saying you're one, but I'm saying somebody that knowingly enables somebody to treat them this way, that's not usually a good sign. People pleasers can go through a lot of stuff, but typically narcissists, like coverts, are profound victims, and knowingly so, feeling deserving of it. So if you feel deserving of abuse, well, then that's not my thing. Not my thing at all. So that comes down to, what is it that you want, right? Why would you knowingly do that? See, that's the concern I have, is when people knowingly do it. Like, when you know this isn't right, you choose it anyway. That's a dividing line for me. See, when somebody is being victimized and then they want people to help them and want sympathy, they burn everybody out, because they refuse to let go or be responsible for themselves. Like, you allow somebody to treat you bad? Well, okay. That lacks integrity, like, already. So what do you need? Somebody to tell you that's not good for you? Well, you know that. So you know everything already, but you choose to do it anyway. So the question is, why would you do that? Right? Well, you are okay alone. Like, what does being okay alone mean? Oh, feelings, right? So you just want to feel okay alone, but being okay alone, everyone's okay alone. Like, what's going to happen to you alone? See, like, here you are allowing yourself to be abused as if that's better. Oh, I don't feel okay alone. I feel okay being abused. Yeah. So I'd rather be abused than be alone. So you would rather have somebody devalue you and treat you bad than to not be with them. Right? And that's common. So you want to be okay to be alone. Well, what would make you not okay being alone? What's not okay about loneliness or being alone? You see, being alone doesn't mean you have to be lonely. What does being alone mean? Oh, being alone means I'm worthless, or nobody wants me, or I'm unlovable, or I'm not good enough, or it means that I can't, I'm afraid. It means I'm not enough for life. I need somebody there so I can feel secure. So what does being alone mean? What's the meaning of being alone? I'm alone. I'm alone right now. Well, February was when I stopped having relationships with women. So the question is, what is the significance of being alone? What does being alone mean? Why would being alone be bad, right? Because secretly says an older, childless woman is a pathetic loser. Okay, so you're just a victim. So you are talking about what someone else says? What does that have to do with you being alone? Society says it? Who gives a shit what society says? Where's society? Who's society? When did you hear that? Where did you hear it? Facebook? See, everyone says society. You're a victim to fictitious, nonsensical society. Nobody says that to you. I've never had someone say that. See, we always blame society, and it's our own genesis of some external expectation. Who said it? Oh, Kevin Samuels? Like, you saw it on Instagram? So where's society? Who's society? You're part of society. Do you say that? You know, where is this society that we're talking about, right? Because society says it, so I can't be alone. So you're going to define your life based on society. So you're going to go get abused so that society says you're a better woman. So you're going to be abused for society. Yeah. So I'm a victim in a relationship because if I'm not, then I'm a victim to society. Just a victim. So society said that I'm this if I'm not, and so I better go get an abuser. That way society approves. So I can take pictures. So what is it? You put pictures on Instagram for society to see you're not alone? Think about it. What are you saying? Yeah, okay, so what? Everyone says it. No, I don't say it. I've never said it. Yeah, I've never said anything like that. The only person that matters is what you say. The only thing impacting you is what you say about yourself. So if you say that me being alone and single, or me being alone with no kids, or whatever means I'm a loser, a failure of a woman, well, you're saying that yourself. And that's the reason why you're suffering. And that's the reason why you'd accept abuse, because underneath everything, you feel worthless. You feel broken. You feel like you're not good enough. And you're projecting that onto society. You're being a victim to other people because you are creating that yourself. And if everybody said that you're a loser, so what? Doesn't mean anything. Would it make it true? Would society get to decide? Like, well, look at society burn itself to the ground. Yeah, society would put a malignant narcissist as a president. So who cares what society says? Somebody that defines themselves externally. So basically, you're only going to be happy if you can be what society wants and what a boyfriend wants, so that everybody treats you the way you think you need to be treated in order to feel like a good enough person. And so you don't have any power. You're just going to live your life being what everyone else wants. So you got to act the way society tells you, the way a boyfriend tells you, the way your parents tell you. And once you can accomplish acting and masquerading around in accordance with everyone else's expectations, then maybe you can be happy. Yeah. Well, that'll never happen. You don't let people define you? Well, that's not true. See, that's already letting people define you. Not letting people define you means that you are letting them define you. Why? Because you're being the antithesis of their definition. You're orchestrating your life in defiance of what they would define. And so that means that they're dominating you into avoidance, into rebellion, into reaction. So saying that I don't let people define me means that you're defined by not letting people define you. Not having people define you is defining you, which means that they're defining you anyway. So being somebody that's trying to escape and resist and avoid the domination of other people defining you is being defined by those people. And so that just means that what? You're trying to be independent of people's definition. So that means that you always have to orchestrate how you define yourself in opposition, resistance, or reaction towards others' definition of you. And so you're what? So then that means that they are doing it. You know, like that's slick or something. I'm never going to let anyone define me because it hurts you. So since you get hurt by people, you don't want to let them define you, which means that you're very sensitive to what people think of you. So it generally makes someone probably an avoidant socially, a reactant, or with less friends or people because you don't like people defining you. And so when you say, I don't let them, how would you not let them, right? You'd have to avoid them. Avoid sharing things, avoid communicating, or avoid going into places, avoid attention, avoid acknowledgement, avoid putting yourself in front of people, avoid putting yourself in circumstances where they might define you. So it's like the avoidance of leadership, avoidance of accountability, hiding out in life. So how would somebody go about avoiding letting people define them? And so what defines you is the avoidance of people's definition of you, which is the same as having them define you. That's just what they're defining you as in your mind, is becoming somebody that's trying to become independent of the impact of others' definitions of you as a result of those definitions impacting you, which means that you're probably sensitive to people. So that means that it's the exact opposite of what you said. So these are the ways we idealize ourselves to cope. I don't let anyone define me. Yeah, great. That means that they've defined you so profoundly that all you can do is hide from them now. I don't care if I ever have a relationship. I'll never let a woman define me. Okay, yeah. And so you don't want to date. Yeah, you're sensitive. So there you go. See, look at that's authenticity, right? Congrats. I'm proud of you for saying that. See, when you say I don't let people define me, that's like being strong, right? You're asserting that. Like, I don't let anyone define me. And then when you really look, it's because you're vulnerable. You're being strong because you feel weak. You feel at the effect of people afflict you. And so when you try to define yourself as someone that doesn't let people define you, that's what it says. That these are totally inauthentic notions of self that are purely reacting. And so that means that, your life is defined by other people to you because you're affected by other people and what they think. It's not a trait. It's just human. This is normal. See, there's nothing any of you are explaining or expressing that's abnormal. That the whole human experience is abnormal. Look at life. Concrete jungle, taxes and mortgages and debt and competing and the dollar versus the yen and war and destruction and pulling children out of hospitals, listening to 80-year-olds talk about why that's great for the world. Religious dogma defining people. We live in, literally the Lord of the Flies, where there is no awareness, there's no enlightenment here. That the salvation, it's all but forgotten. That people don't know how to be at all. That we've been indoctrinated fully. That this whole world is designed to prevent you from having any measure of self-awareness. That even the education system is meant to indoctrinate. And it's not even a conspiracy. It's an acknowledgement to the way in which human minds normally learn versus the way we're educated. That people don't even feel comfortable talking about subjects that they're uneducated about, thinking that being educated has something to do with knowledge. Well, it does today, But human beings would have the ability to have conversations that would be generative, collaborative, and connected. Because me talking with other people and like myself, there's no conflict. There's literally just awareness, sharing awareness, and it's expansive. That I can take what I've discovered, this ontological methodology, and I can share it with somebody like me who's used similar things in their life to transform themselves, to wake up in a way that is unimaginable and unavailable in conventional thinking. Absolutely not attainable. That the vast majority of people will live their whole life suffering through paradigms of reactive behaviors, never even knowing that there was something other than that. And when they die, their subconscious will let them go. They will have a moment of peace because their subconscious, in recognition of the lack of necessity around maintaining a fight or flight reaction, will literally let them go, and their whole life will flash before them, and they will realize the truth of their own existence. They will realize that they knew all of these things the whole time, that they sacrificed love their whole life, that they literally sabotaged love, that they literally destroyed relationships, they pushed it away, and yet they will have profound peace in those moments because there won't be anything wrong with having done that. That they will be forgiven automatically by God. But the God that forgives you is the one within you. And so they will feel peaceful. It happens to people that are morally wounded. That when the subconscious mind knows it's game over, it'll just let them go. It'll release you from the paradigm, and then your whole mind expands, and you just see everything. And it can be very beautiful. And I could tell you, having experienced myself in full, my life's already complete. That in a real sense, for me, I don't live for myself. That I suffer living for me. My personality and identity is just a mechanism of affliction. That my salvation is escaping just to be present. That I tell people routinely, do not make the mistake of thinking I'm special. I don't say that as a deflection. I don't say that to diminish anyone's affinity. I don't say that, to garner additional recognition. No. Because I know something that you don't. And I know something that even was taught to me. Like, after I'd done like the Landmark Forum class, I used to go back to assist, which means volunteer to help with the production of classes. It was so fascinating to see something so powerful. Well, these Landmark Forum leader guys and women, they travel all over the world, and so they rotate around. There used to be 50 of them, and they would do courses all over the world. And, there's schedules, and so, but they would just rotate, and a new one would come into town. And it was always fascinating to meet new ones because they were all very similar, that they had a similar way of being and demeanor. And different interesting stories, but they were uniquely powerful, uniquely present. So present, I've experienced this myself, where they don't demonstrate any sign of fatigue. That they would do a 12-hour class and they would never experience being tired. That would be a way of being, that you could get so present that you're absent an experience of yourself, that your whole experience is everything outside of you. Interesting. And so you're just in a state of, I guess you could call it peace, but it's an absence of self, but you're still there. Because the self is illusory. What people experience as themselves is just a collection of triggers and paradigms of perpetual thought that's patternized and rigid. And when somebody exists outside of that, their beingness transforms into something objective and pure and sharp, fearless, a stand. That in that space of everything and nothing, the human being has to reconstitute a new way to be. And it's like your molecules rearrange. And you can still be yourself. You are yourself, but you exist not in your mind anymore. That thinking transforms into something else. Or rather than reactionary and just listening to a voice in your head ramble like a broken record, thinking that that's you doing something intellectual, thoughts, you end up having total dominion over them, as well as being able to generate ideas from nothing. Being creative in the assertion of things, where you could think about things like the mind, and you could create whole new paradigms of understanding, totally objectively, without any reflecting upon the implications for your own identity. And that's where they talked about this was written by God, that was written by God, is because it would be a person that was literally the embodiment of making a difference for others. And so they were just talking from a place of wisdom, not to celebrate themselves, not to be smart, to do nothing but make a difference, to bestow something upon their brothers and sisters of the world. That human beings that discover themselves in this particular way recognize that they're no better, that they're no different, that they don't need to be special. That for me, I see human beings like icebergs. And I recognize that their current moment experience is just the tip of the iceberg, and they have no awareness of the rest. And they live life suffering, comparing their tip of the iceberg to the tip of someone else's, weeping over a millimeter of difference in a world where not everybody could be good enough, I guess, where you'll feel stupid for no reason, where you're blasphemous in every thought you create, where you literally suffer and imperil yourself for no reason, totally in denial of the gift of life, failing to recognize that the least intelligent of us all would be more intelligent than everything else in the universe. And you think that you're stupid, therefore you are, because you limit your access to the mind, that you have the same amount of brain cells as Einstein. You're just undeveloped because your thinking is just ruminating. You literally just have a 5-year-old's brain, 5-year-old's mind. It's like your mind, your personality, it's like the character you portray yourself to be within the rigid boundaries of perpetual fight or flight reactions that even contain you within your own imagination is like taking the world's most powerful computer to play Super Mario Brothers. How much brain power do you need to sit here and ruminate on your brokenness, to worry about your boyfriend and if you're good enough, to contemplate why you let somebody hurt you or how come you keep failing? And how, with all these thoughts and all this stuff, you're using the same brain that could create calculus in the same time frame you've just spent invalidating yourself for the last 7 months, repeating the same thoughts, reimagining the same situations, triggering yourself in the same repetitive, nonsensical thought process. It's just a pattern of internally reacting over and over and over in a merry-go-round of triggers from I'm not good enough to something's wrong with me to I'm broken to worthless to unlovable. Someone else could have created calculus or written, a whole, book about the human mind. And so you're not even using your mind. You're taking the gift of your mind and you've turned it in on itself. That this expanse of consciousness, You've taken the Google universe of your ability to create thoughts, ideas, and paradigms, God's Google Maps that you could literally use your mind to picture a future and just go, click enter, and your brain would create how to do it. You can't do that because you have parental limitations of I'm not good enough for that. I'm broken. My past says this. My boyfriend said that. My mommy and daddy said this. Therefore, it's true. And if society says this, and then you won't allow yourself to use your own mind. And because you don't do that, you literally become the embodiment of all of your fears, thoughts, and concerns. You manifest yourself as the embodiment of your fears, concerns, the things you think you need to overcome and fix, your lack of deserving love. You wear it, you are it, you're being it. And ultimately, what are you? Well, you got a brain like everyone else. And so you've got hands, you've got the same bones, the same structures, and yet you differentiate yourself. You make yourself, different and think that, you're some kind of screwed up in a world that says it's true. Yeah, you might be too traumatized. This happened and that happened. And so even the minds of psychologists think that way. And so they're trying to fix people, fixated on your feelings. You think your feelings are so important. And they're just a product, an inescapable reactionary product that's repeating. That if I wrote down every feeling and thought from your last discard from a narcissist, we can talk for less than an hour, and that same list would reproduce itself at 5 years old in your imagination. And it just became a paradigm of reactionary, vicious circles that imprints onto any moment. And that's it. And then when you look at the circumstances of this moment, you attribute these feelings to actually what's happening. And so if you wanted to figure it out, you go, why is this happening? And why do I feel this way? And then you try to remember a situation just like it. So you access your memories based on the circumstances, thinking the circumstances have something to do with why you feel the way you do or what's happening or with anything. And so you and a therapist go, oh, you got discarded by a narcissist and they're abusing you. So, and you feel abandoned. Well, didn't your parents get divorced when you were 12? And what happened with your daddy? And, oh, I felt abandoned when they did my daddy. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, great. Well, so you go and find trauma. Well, what they don't see is that all the feelings associated with this current experience are the same in that one, in work, and everywhere. And it all comes from a nonsensical moment in childhood where if you looked, there's something that happened in the world of the child, and then there's all the nonsense the child thought. But that became connected, where you actually think, this means I'm not good enough, and this meant I was broken, and this meant unlovable, and this meant abandoned, and this meant I'm alone and confused, and I don't know, and I can't, and there's something wrong with me. And so your mind makes up meaning. You make all this up, that everything about what you suffer with right now is totally made up. It's make-believe in your head. I mean, it feels real. Oh, it's so serious. It's heavy. Significant. Horrible. But look, is it true? Why is it that all of you feel the same way? Why is it that every single person that's a people pleaser has a relationship with a narcissist ends up in the same position? Why can I make a video describing the entire dynamics of that relationship and it would apply to every single one? And this person thinks it's their fault, thinks that they're not good enough, thinks there's something wrong with them. No. It's because the personality of a people pleaser is orchestrated exactly the same in every single one. Let's just go over some of these features of your people-pleasing personality. Well, first of all, you don't like saying no. Makes you afraid. You're conflict avoidant. Saying no is terribly fearful for you. You see the good in people. And everybody deserves love. So you see the good in people and you think that's some kind of superpower. Oh, and you're also so understanding. You understand everyone. You understand. Because see, seeing the good in people is what we call idealizing. So you create a character that you embed in your mind that becomes who the person is for you. So they're a good person who did something bad, and you want to understand why they did it. Because it could be your fault, but it could be they were traumatized as kids, or they got too drunk, or something happened at work. And so you want to preserve the idealized version of them by explaining them in a way that gets them off the hook. Often willing to be guilty yourself, because that gives you a false sense of security and power, because you could always fix yourself, meaning you get to preserve them as ideal. Oh, you like making people happy, right? Oh, because it makes you happy. And so you know that through observation, and you act as if that's some kind of conscious feature of your choice to be such a good person. Nope. Nope, that's just your hypervigilance, see? Because as a child, happy people wouldn't hurt you. So you became very emotionally invested in making sure to attempt to control your environment. And so you get sucked into trying to make people happy, almost as if it's your job. You see, because as a child, you had no control or power, none. But in order to give yourselves the sense that you did, you made all this up. Yeah. And so you're susceptible to guilt tripping, because in order for you to coexist with narcissistic parents, well, you had to be agreeable at all times. You could never say no. And you'd always eventually have to surrender to their perspective. And so, that's why you get confused. See, confusion enabled you to dissociate from observable reality, to allow reality to be bent to their reality so you could coexist with less conflict. And so everything about your people-pleasing personality is just a conflict avoidance mechanism to coexist with narcissists by living in permanent, perpetual cognitive dissonance. Walking around seeing the good in people is being the sheep amongst the wolves, unable to discern good from bad, unable to understand, trying to figure it out. Yeah, literally staying with the narcissist for 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, 3 years, letting them destroy your life, and then being a victim about it. I was nice. I did everything. Why did they do this? Well, because you let them, because you made them valid every time you tried to understand them. When you try to understand why somebody's being the way they are, you made it okay already. You invented that their behavior had a plausible explanation the moment you wanted to talk to them. Well, why did we do this? Why did you do it? And so your understanding is everybody's get out of jail free card. Your understanding is what sabotages your whole life. Understanding is a perpetual state of dissociation. I don't really know what's going on. And so you literally become non observant of reality. What happens is you get triggered into confusion and then guilt tripped. But you see, the confusion is to disconnect you so that you don't have to ruin the idealization, because you're attached to it, because you've been living this way and you don't like your past. You don't want to suffer. You don't like the loveless world you live within. You don't like your perpetual failures to have meaningful relationships. You don't like the darkness of it. And so you create an alternate future that you're living into, and you induct other people into it, and then you depend on them being the good person that you created them to be in your mind, unwilling to accept what they are because it obliterates the future you've invented with them, your fantasy of you being fixed, whole, complete, and perfect, the someday future that you continue to live within, trying to get to your happiness, trying to get to your wholeness, trying to find yourself, like a lost child playing Pokemon. And the Pokemon is your happiness. Trying to restore yourself to some former fictitious version of yourself, which really is the same self, just in a different stage of the continuum between not good enough and good enough. Two sides of the same coin. The yo-yo of your emotional reality when you hand the yo-yo string to the narcissist so that later you can claim to be the victim and get on the same trauma bus express, the same healing journey as everyone else, talking about how good of liars there are. Oh, really? Are they now? Yeah, there must be, to have lied to you 10,000 times. It's magic. You didn't get it the first time, but they're just that good that they lied, and you're like, oh shit. Well, that's a new lie sounds so much better than the last one. No, Susan, that wasn't Jason Bourne. Yeah. No. The dude smoking water bongs while you're at work. No, he doesn't work at NASA, sorry. Yeah, no. He's not going to be a doctor or CEO. No, giving him your credit card wasn't a good idea or a good investment. But he's such a good liar. Oh, you're the good liar. Telling you what you want to hear is not hard, because you'll tell him what to tell you. Here's what I want in our relationship. I want it to be this, that, this, and this, and this. And he'll be like, oh, okay, great. Yeah, of course. Uh-huh. Everything you wanted. Yeah, just like that. Yeah. They future faked us. It's like, kind of, sure. I mean, we future faked ourselves. You know what I'm saying? They just listen to us. Oh, yeah, I want the same things. Sure. As soon as you get naked and give me your credit card, we can get this party started. No, no. You gotta understand. Cognitive dissonance, that's your Wheaties in the morning. And that's what you eat for breakfast. You're literally idealizing people. Like, you're walking through life, I see the good in people. It's like, you've seen the movie The Sixth Sense. I'm gonna make one the people-pleasing sense. It's just gonna be you and me. I see the good in people. I see good people. And you could literally have you in hell. Satan's looking at you, every dark overlord and demonic entity, and you're just like, oh, these good people everywhere. Everybody deserves love. They were just traumatized. That's all. Like, what do you mean you see the good in people? See the good in people, listen. Even Jeffrey Dahmer smiled. Yeah, everyone on death row, somebody could say they saw the good in them. There was good, sure. Everyone was a child, Everyone gets happy every once in a while. You'll literally watch somebody smile. Like, some people pleasers literally probe for the good. They're like, I know there's good in you. You'll have some man or woman telling you, there's no good in me. I'm bad. I can't love anyone. I don't know. Like, no. I see the good in you. It's in there somewhere. I'm going to find it. You're literally acting like, you're going to just, enter their mind to find the good. There's somewhere in there. There's an inner child. We'll bring it out. Everyone deserves love. No, don't say that about yourself. I see the good in people. I see it in you, mister. I see the good in you. It's there. I know it. I'm willing to bet my whole life on it. Are you sure? I feel like I'm evil. No. It's my gift. I understand you. You are just really traumatized. It's not your fault. You just need someone to teach you how to love. I know, I need someone to teach me how to love. Could you please get naked? Please? Oh, of course, I will. Whatever it takes. I need to make you happy so I can be happy. Whoa, hold on here. Whoa. Time out. No. Somebody says they don't know how to love. Well, you say, well, go call your mom. Ask for a do-over. I don't know what to say, man. Drink some holy water. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no. You're not teaching nobody love. Love doesn't fix anything. You're not curing anybody. People don't change. There's no way, if you're in a relationship thinking that someone needs to change, it's over already. Yeah, no. You need a relationship where no one needs to change. Yeah, there's no changing. People don't change. You need to understand. Changing is staying the same. You're already trying to change. See, changing is figure it out, be perfect. Yeah, see, you think that you're some kind of adaptive human being. Like, you just think, like, you can make it in any environment because I figured it out and then I just become perfect for the situation. Yeah, that's not changing. No. And then, of course, the people you want to change are going to be the most afflicted. Like, listen, Helen, if you want to pick somebody to change, get someone that's like real close to the finish line. See, if you were like trying to, say, win a race and you were going to pick a horse, right? Don't get the broken-legged horse, like get the thoroughbred, get the one that's like already went second place, and you want to get it the first. But if you pick the broken down, whatever. I mean, a people pleaser is like someone that goes to get a poodle and they end up with a Michael Vick fighting dog rescue. Muffy keeps biting me, and she's, it's like a woman that's walking with their, they got like a bag, you ever seen someone with like a little mini teacup chihuahua with the little teeny Amazon, service dog vest on, and they're partying with the dog, and it's, well, he's a service animal. He's here for emotional support. Yeah. It's like, imagine like she's got her Louis Vuitton purse and there's like a pit bull, sticking out of it. Oh, Muffy, I'm a good dog, Mom. He bites me sometimes, but I do my best. I love him. It's like getting a narcissist is like you want to be a cat owner, but you got a raccoon with rabies. I feed it the best of the best food, and sometimes it's, I pet him and he's purring, but he bites me, and I don't know what's going on, and the vet's like, ma'am, that's appears to be a raccoon. Did you say it bit you? You might need to get a shot immediately. It's dangerous, we should put it down. No, you're just hating on the relationship. Mittens said you would do that. It's us versus the world, Mittens. And it's like you want it to be something else. You're not going to change the raccoon with rabies into Mittens, your perfect kitty. Oh, it's not happening. The Michael Vick fighting dog hanging out of your Louis Vuitton purse, it's not a teacup chihuahua. And so you got to look at what you actually have in your life. If your soulmate behaves in a way that has conventionally been described as evil, and you're like, can he change? It's like, well, maybe we just find someone a little closer to the finish line here. If you're trying to pick somebody to change, well, you sure are picking the least likely person. And I'll tell you what, though, if you were able to get them to change, that would be worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah. The People Pleaser of the Year award goes to, you'd be on Time magazine. Just a people pleaser, just happy as hell. I changed him. That'll be it. He changed for me. How the people pleaser mastered the art of perfectionism in order to transform the narcissist with love. Yeah, she cured me. I suddenly developed empathy and love. Her love and perfection for me became so undeniable that it opened my heart, and I had to say I'm sorry for the first time in my life, and all my shame released, and I was free and in love with myself for the first time. And then I loved her with all my heart so I could be her soulmate forever. It's like, no, it's not happening. Mm-mm. No. No, 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 no. Nope. You're not fixing anybody. Because you think about like the absurdity, like trying to fix another person. Well, why don't you start with yourself? Yeah, why don't you start with not needing to fix anyone? Yeah, that'll be your first fix. Yeah, so let go of all your attachments to the narcissist, right? To show, demonstrate this fixing power, right? I mean, if you're going to fix someone, let's start with the person in the mirror. So you want to fix or change, you expect this mental patient to change. Well, let's change the need to have them change. And then we'll worry about them after. Once we get you fixed up, then we can turn to the other people. Oh, no, because you need them to change so you can. Yeah, that's because you need to be happy. So you need them to be different. So then you'll heal yourself from them. No, no, there's no changing people. No, I don't know really a lot about any of that stuff. Reiki or radical acceptance. I just do what I do. I go straight to the genesis of reality. Yeah, there's nothing more direct. You can't replace that. There's, you know, there's nothing more pure than straight and direct and instantaneous and permanent. What is what exactly? Well, if I told you, it wouldn't make sense to you anyway. But I'll tell you, it's the exact, and I mean exact, irrefutable origins of human identity. Understanding being, which would be the continuum between an experiential world outside of self that necessitates self and the disappearance of the constraints of the mind, paradigms that are existent as hidden ways of being, often confused as feelings or thoughts themselves. These ways of being cause the experience of the external world that necessitates you to be the way that you be in life. An inescapable paradigm that there's no answer for outside of itself. I mean, It creates the world as it appears, and, in addressing that, that's where real self-discovery exists. All enlightenment processes address that directly and in different ways, but the ways in which we do it now are particularly effective and universal, but it's not something that people would conventionally understand outside of having experienced it. What I would say is, I say this to every single person that I talk to this way, where I'm actually doing the exercises with them. I say, look, this is going to be a really amazing experience. And, despite everything I've explained to you up till now, at this point, there is no chance that you can understand it. Even if you understand everything I said, that I'm going to ask you after we're done with this coaching session, if this is something that anyone could have explained to you in any way, and you would have had the capacity to understand what you're experiencing in this moment right now. And I can tell you that without exception, the answer is no. That it is so beyond what you could comprehend that it's an experiential phenomenon that you don't have even words for right now. That when I ask somebody after the coaching session, I'll ask them, what are you experiencing right now? How do you feel? Generally, that stumps them. I don't know how to describe it. They'll just start describing it as what it isn't. It's like a weight is lifted. There's no anxiety. There's no noise. There's no anything. It's like there's nothing. I'll just say, is it peaceful? It is peaceful. Yeah, so this is what they're talking about, the peace. Yeah, it's what the Buddhists talk about. Oh, yeah, I get that, and that's so whatever somebody thought was peace, it won't apply to this. It just will be an indescribable thing because it's a new experience that you don't have words for. That's just true. Because we're talking about disappearing triggers. I mean, you just don't know that you only exist through them, that you don't even know what it is like to experience yourself outside the boundaries of the way that you think right now. That what you're doing when you think that you're thinking is not voluntary. You think you have control, but you see you are listening to the voice in your head at all times. But anyway, I'm going to check in on TikTok. Not a lot of people here, so it's just kind of, apparently not that interesting. That's okay. I'll think about going live here, because if people are just going to, it's not something they like to hear, then, well, it's okay. It's all right. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.